Hey everybody, Don Georgevich here with Job Interview Tools, and today I want to talk to you about things that you shouldn't put on your resume. But I want to do it from the perspective of an article that I just read where somebody published an article saying they were a senior recruiter for Google, and these are the things that she says you should not put on your resume anymore. And so I just wanted to walk you through each of her 5 suggestions, tell you what I think about them, and what that really means to you. So anyway, she seems to think that a lot of these things are outdated. The first one here is stop putting your full address on your resume. Now, I agree with that. There's no reason to put your actual street address. For me, I would just put, Don Georgevich, Cleveland, Ohio, and that would be it. And that's all that you need. You don't need the actual street address. And the reasoning behind that is it just adds more information to your resume that doesn't add value. I mean, your street address just doesn't add any value. So on a resume, less is more. You only want to have the very best, the most succinct information on your resume, and especially when it gets down to your contact information. In that header section up top, you want that to be super crisp and clean with only stuff that needs to be there. Next one here, number 2, get rid of your objective statement. Now, an objective statement is a statement that says the type of position that you are looking for. And what it does is it makes the recruiter's job easier, because when they get your resume and they can say, oh, seeking a position in information technology, working with Microsoft systems, whatever it is, your objective statement clarifies to an employer what they're looking for. So it actually makes their job easier. So for her to say that you should get rid of your objective statement doesn't make any sense. Now, I know there is some controversy out there. There are some people who say, no, you shouldn't use an objective statement because it's just so outdated. It's not outdated. There's nothing outdated about an objective statement. It's no more outdated than putting your name on your resume. So use an objective statement, but don't turn it into a big paragraph and say, I am seeking a position where I will be working with a lot of people. No, an objective statement is a very simple one-line statement, not two, one. And it simply says, seeking a position as a manager in, the finance industry, whatever it is. I always like to say what position I'm specifically looking for, and if possible, in what industry. Like I might be seeking an analyst position in the healthcare industry, or I might be seeking an accounting position in the manufacturing industry. Whatever it is, that clarity really resonates with who's ever looking at your resume, and it helps them understand what you want and whether they want to keep reading your resume or not. So disregard that. Use an objective statement, but use it wisely. Next one here, number 3, stop detailing your entire work history. And there's 2 ways to look at that. Some people on the resume, they will list every single thing that they have done in their job, things that don't really mean anything, like, well, I was responsible for changing the paper in the copy machine, I was responsible for this. No, those are just job description duties, and no, you don't want to put that in there. But more importantly, what you do want to put in your work history are descriptions of what you did, accomplishments that are related to the position that you're looking for. That's really the key, because if you just give a list of all the things that you've done in your last job and you put them on your resume, and maybe only half of those, or even less than half, are related to the job that you're looking for, then the employer is going to look at that and say, I'm not sure that you're a good match for what we're looking for. So that's why it's really important for you to carefully read the job description, find out what's most important to them, and then take those elements and find out your experience that's related to those things, and then put that on your resume. Now you might be saying, well, Don, how am I supposed to do that when I'm applying to 500 different jobs? Don't apply to 500 different jobs. Pick the ones that are most relevant for you. Only apply to a few jobs a week, but only jobs that you really want. Don't just get out there and just start clicking and clicking and clicking and say, I'll take this job, I'll take this job, I'll apply to that. See, online applications have just made it so easy to apply to 1,000 jobs a day that it's pointless. You want to apply to jobs in a targeted manner. So you want to look at the company, you want to look at what they're doing, and you say, you know what, that's a job I want, that's a place I want to be. So that's when you want to create a tailored resume that matches what they're looking for, and then an accompanying cover letter to show them that you're really interested in them and you like what they do and you'd like to go to the next step. Now, in addition to stop detailing your work history, which probably also means that you don't want to go back too far. Let's say you've been working for 30 years and now you're looking for a job. You don't want to list 30 years of experience on your resume. You only want to go back 10 to 15 years because chances are those other your older experience isn't relevant at all, especially in IT. I was working with a guy. He was a 25-year IT veteran, and he had 25 years of IT experience on his resume. I'm like, dude, you got to take off at least 10 or 15 of that because that stuff, it just doesn't exist anymore, and people don't even know what it means. So take that off and just put on relevant information. Now, I'm just using an extreme example with IT, but that really applies to anything. Employers generally don't care about what you did more than 10 or 15 years ago. So that was number 3. Number 4 here, stop using weak action verbs like I helped, I was responsible for. Now, that's kind of babyfied. I really don't expect to see those types of comments coming from a senior Google recruiter. If she's a senior Google recruiter, I can't imagine that she's getting applications, resumes that have this type of language on it. I mean, this is very babyfied. Only the most basic of resumes have this. And most people know, and now you do, that you're not supposed to use personal pronouns on a resume. And that really should have been her message there, to get rid of the I. You never want to use I, me, you, no personal pronouns, because your name's at the top of the resume. They already know it's you. So, and those are weak words like help, responsible for. People know that. What you do want to use are words like, like she says, streamlined, implemented, strategized, increased, managed, developed, anything like that. Strong action verbs will make for more powerful statements. And then the next one here, she's got, don't include references available on request. I mean, there's nothing new about that. People haven't been putting that on for 20 years. I mean, when I wrote resumes, 30 years ago, we weren't putting that on there. Some people do. It just kind of hangs around. But the thing is, even if you have, references available on request, that's not going to impact whether your resume gets read or not. Someone will just look at it and say, so what? It's not going to detract from your resume. But it is one more thing that you don't need, because if the company wants resumes, they'll ask. Or not resumes, but references. They want them, they'll ask you, and they know that you'll have them, or hopefully that you do. So that's no big deal. And then I wanted to throw in a couple of my own of things that you probably shouldn't put on your resume. And one of my favorites is outdated skills. Some people put on skills that just aren't relevant anymore. Computer skills are one. Some people, they say, hey, they still have Windows 95 experience on their resume. So those kind of things don't really add value. So don't use outdated skills. Put relevant skills, modern skills that are relevant to the job that you're looking for. Another one here is, jobs past 15 years, and I already touched on that. So only go back 10 to 15 years with your work history. Now, I mean, if you haven't worked for 15 years, then only go to 14, or put on 5 or 10 or whatever it is. But for those veterans who've been around for a while, don't break that barrier there. Another thing is, don't go past 1.5 pages. Recruiters are really just going to read the first page of a resume. And if it is that exciting, maybe they'll venture into the second page. But usually by the time they get to the second page, they're getting into experience that's over 10 years old, which they don't really care about. So they're just going to scan your first page. So that's why you want to put all of your best stuff on the first page. I've seen people who have had resumes where they had so much stuff on the first page. They had a big bulky skills section, they had an introduction, and they didn't get to the bulk of their experience until the bottom of the first page, and then the rest on the second page. You want to put your best stuff up front, right on the top. Probably no more than 1/3 down the page, you should start into relevant experience. And don't, like I said, don't go past 1.5 pages. Now, that's more of a general rule. I mean, let's say you're in the world of academia, or in science, or whatever, something where you've written a lot of papers, you have a lot of journals, you have a lot of publications, and employers want to see that stuff from you because of the industry that you're in. Then you might have to go to 2 or 3 pages. But for the most of us, 1 page to 1.5 is ideal. If you can get it down to 1, that's perfect. If you can get it down to 1 and get everything in there, that would be the best way to go. Another one I have here is this is something that not put on your resume, or the reverse of that, but put your LinkedIn profile. Put it up there in the heading. Now that you've gotten rid of your address, you have room for a LinkedIn profile. And your LinkedIn profile should just be a summarized version of what your resume is. And when you do put your LinkedIn profile link up there, make sure you get a personalized link. Get one that's, if you just use the default generated one, it's like, linkedin.com/65923, whatever. You're just some number to them. You can get that converted over into a personal URL with your name. Like mine is linkedin.com/ENDGeorgevich. And now I have my own personalized URL. Okay, another one here. Don't use a tiny font. I've seen too many resumes come through where they're using like a 9 and a 10-point font just so they can jam all that information on one page. It makes it really hard to read, especially on a computer screen, which is where everybody's reading resumes anyways. So try to go, I'd like to aim for an Arial font that's about a 10 to an 11-point font. And that's the best reading for on paper and on a computer screen. And that's my preferred font. And I think that's really about it. I think that's all I have for you on this one. Now, I have a great resume guide. It's called the Resume Masterpiece, and it will show you how to write a killer resume. And it'll teach you how to write a great heading, how to write a good skills section, how to write a fantastic objective, and how to structure your work experience. And you can actually pick up a copy of that. It's not free, but you can get a copy of that book from jobinterviewtools.com/resume, and I'll put a link for that down below. But just pick up the book. If you're stuck on your resume, if you need to write one from scratch, or you need to just kind of brush up yours and make it a little bit better, it's a perfect guide. And it's way better than hiring a resume writer, because most of the resume writers out there, if you're just paying like, $100, $200 for a resume writer, you're getting some college kid, no offense, but you're getting some college kid who doesn't know a lot about resume, and they're just copying off, they don't know a lot about resume writing, and they're just copying off a template, and they're just taking all your stuff, and they're just stuffing it in there, and then they give it back to you, and then you have a piece of garbage, and then you wonder why nobody calls you. If you're not paying at least $800 to $1,000, I know that's a lot of money, but if you're not at least paying that much, you're not getting a seasoned resume writer to write your resume. When I wrote resumes, I don't do it anymore because it's so time consuming, but when I did, the cheapest one I did was like $1,800. They take like 40 hours to write a good one. So, but what I've done is I've taken all of my resume writing experience and I've condensed it and I put it into the Resume Masterpiece. So you can actually get this guide, read through it, and write your resume according to my principles in there, and you will end up with a resume that is 10 times better than any resume writer out there, guaranteed. And you You really are the best person to write your resume because you know the most about you. And a resume is more of a personal expression of who you are and what you've done. And to hand that over to somebody, it is kind of awkward. But I understand why people do it, because they're just terrified about a resume and how to do it and put it all together. They just want to give it to somebody else to do. And it's probably one of the worst things you can do, because you're never going to get the truest expression of yourself out there and conveyed to prospective employers. All right, my friend, that's all I got for you. Good luck on your next interview. And if you like this video, you found it helpful, please give it a thumbs up, and subscribe to my channel, and I'll let you know every time I release a brand new video. All right, good luck on your interview. We'll see you in the next video. Bye now.